Hello, Garland Nixon here, and reports are that there was some kidnapping operation in Venezuela. Let's talk. Hello, Garland Nixon here. Try to get things. Oh, wait a minute. I got my mic all over the place. All right. So let's. All good. All right. Let's get going. It is here in Maryland, just outside of Washington, D.C. It is about 7:06 a.m. I rolled over this morning, not to a whole lot of surprise. I would say, let me open this up. I would say, to the shock of no one, the United States has committed another international criminal act. On any given day, the United States is going to commit some kind of a criminal act. We just don't know what it's going to be on a given day. Certainly, the U.S. is a rogue empire, but there are a number of things to look at here. Let's start here. Let's start this. Let's define what happened. I've heard people say the United States has gone to war. The United States has gone to war with Venezuela. As I see it, as best I can understand it, it appears to be a kidnapping operation. It appears that the United States, my understanding, is dropped several bombs. It wasn't a huge bombing operation. It was more focused. Apparently, it was basically, in a nutshell, it was a kidnapping operation. It was the United States, apparently like special forces or something, going in, dropping some bombs around a particular area, going into a particular area, and kidnapping the president, the democratically elected president of a particular country. So it's an act of war, but it's not an all-out war. Now, in theory, it is both. Since it is an act of war, it's an all-out war, but it wasn't a sweeping, like, okay, there's troops on the ground fighting and there's all these bombs everywhere and all this stuff. Now, a couple of things about this, a number of ways places you can go, but I'll start here. It really does demonstrate the neocon mentality. So if anybody had any doubts, is Donald Trump a neocon? Does he have the neocon mindset? Well, absolutely. This reveals it for those who didn't know, because the neocon mindset is the villain hero mindset, and it kind of works like this. Whether it's Vladimir, and I've said this for a while, and you all know this. If someone has a lot of oil, if a country has resources that the U.S. wants, that's pretty much it. Resources that the United States wants to steal, wants to pilfer, wants to pirate. They start by demonizing the leader, and there's only one term they use. He's a dictator. Assad's a dictator. Saddam's a dictator. Putin's a dictator. Maduro's a dictator. If you got oil or resources or a geographical location that the United States wants, then the U.S. says, we are going to protect the people of that country from a dictator. Isn't that interesting how there are always countries who have oil and natural resources and lithium and things of that nature? The United States must protect them from a dictator. Now, the reason that it never really works out all that well, is because of this myth of the singular bad guy. Right? That if the U.S., if the neocons come up with a narrative, and the narrative is that country over there with all that oil and lithium and gold and stuff, yeah, their leader is an evil dictator. And if we get rid of this dictator, the people will greet us with flowers. Donald Trump, basically, in saying that Nicolas Maduro is a dictator, he's essentially saying the people will greet us with flowers. It is just the neocon scam. And who is the scam on? Guess who? We're all looking in the mirror. The scam's on those of us who will believe it, right? In the same way that there are people right now who are like, okay, gee, Israel's the only country in the world that has recognized this new Somaliland, right? And it's splitting Somalia in half and taking the part on the Red Sea. Hmm. So the United States has been bombing Somalia. It wants to split Somalia in half and take the part on the Red Sea, particularly the part that the United States was having trouble with and lost to the Houthis. Yes, sirree. Oh, wait, look, there's Somalian stuff going on in Minnesota. Completely unrelated. It's not that the Zionists, it's not that the neocons came up with some kind of a bullcrap line to point you to Somalians in Minnesota. So you would then, your brain would then say, Somalians bad. Somaliland. We must take Somaliland. So they could program us like zombies. No, couldn't possibly be that. It has to be there's really like something going on in Minnesota that we should pay attention to that they had no clue about until such time as they decided to take half of Somalia. You know what's going to let me ask you this. You remember the Venezuelan street gangs? Venezuelan street gangs, they're everywhere. They're taking over the country. They're taking over this. There's Venezuelan street gangs. We must stop the Venezuelan street gangs. Oh, yeah, Venezuela's got a lot of oil. Purely coincidence. Oh, Somalians in Minnesota and the Somalians are doing everything. Oh, look, Somaliland. You know, people, Americans, the level of brainwashing, the level of ignorance. I'll put it to you like this. You've probably heard this before. A nation of sheep begets a government of wolves. If you believe it was really Venezuelan street gangs that were bothering them, if you believe that it's really something going on in Minnesota where money's being, if you think they really care about that, if you think these criminals, these liars, and thieves who steal billions really care about a small time operation in Minnesota, it could be a false flag. They could have created it themselves. It could be a government operation that they put together. Look, how many times have we seen that? How many times have we seen the FBI say, yes, we've caught some terrorists, and you come to find out that, like, yes, they're trying to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer, and you go in there and you find out that they were like a bunch of FBI ops who were like pushing this thing. Yeah, guys, let's go get Gretchen Whitmer. And the guys are like, huh? What are you talking about? Who? Whitmer? Don't worry, we'll meet. They pay for everything, and then they can't even barely prosecute it. They can't really prosecute it because it was a bunch of FBI stiffs running it. You don't think possibly with Venezuelan street gangs, possibly with this Minnesota Somalian stuff, that it's the same thing, that it's the same old false flag stuff? We got to take Somaliland. They will be putting bases in Somalia quicker than you can say Minnesota's a scam. But there's a certain element in society that no matter how many times they're lied to, no matter how many times they're scammed, and they'll even say, I think that Israel's up to no good. I think that Israel's running a false flag and Israel's lying. What about the whole Minnesota scam with Somalians, where they're actually going to try to take half of Somalia? Well, now that I think it's completely legitimate. The Somalian people are doing that's not a scam. They can never see a scam. They can never see a false flag when it's right in front of their face. You think that the U.S. government is concerned about an economic scam? You think that's what the Trump administration is like? We've got to save money. We've got to make sure that nobody steals our money. Look, America, look, American, they're stealing your money. You just add $150 billion to the defense budget, and you really think they're worried about Somalian scams in Minnesota that are probably run by FBI agents? You know, come on. But at any rate, let's move on. So they don't let's start here. Don't buy the scam of the Lex Luthor, the villain, super villain that's running a country like Maduro, that has to be that once they kidnap Maduro, it's over. See, this is again, it shows you that Donald Trump is pure neocon. Why? Because they talked about Maduro, right? As though the country of Venezuela didn't exist. Putin. I've often said this with some of these neocons and Democrats. Putin this, Putin that, as if there's no country of Russia. Russia doesn't exist amongst these people. Well, Putin. That's all they say, as if Vladimir Putin just disappeared into another disappeared into another dimension and didn't exist anymore, that every that the Russian government would then suddenly say, "Hey, perhaps you can have Ukraine build all the bases you want. Why don't you just point nukes at us from right from our border?" That really that that all you have to say is the leader is bad, and that if the leader steps down, then the country will suddenly be a neoliberal haven for the United States to come in and steal everything they got. And that's what they're saying in Venezuela. Oh yeah. So a lot of people they'll be fretting and gnashing of teeth and say, okay, that's it for Venezuela. Well, as I said, they have kidnapped. Let me ask you this. What country do you think that if the leader was kidnapped, the country would fold? Let me ask you this. Do you think if, let's just say for some reason, Venezuela or any other country, some country came in and kidnapped Trump um, or whoever was the president of the United States, somebody came in and kidnapped them in another country and took them away. Do you think the United States would then just fall? And whatever country it was would say, oh my gosh, you've taken Trump. You now are our ruler. It's almost like what was the movie with the necromongers with what's his name, Diesel, where like he defeated the leader, and the leader was, they were like, you are now our ruler, like in the animal world where there's an alpha male and you defeat the alpha male, like there's chimpanzees and there's an alpha with the chimpanzees, and if you defeat the alpha, then you like are the new ruler of the chimpanzees. You think that's how countries work, that all you have to do is kidnap the ruler and the whole country then suddenly subordinates itself? The Chronicles of Riddick, the United States, you have kidnapped our ruler. We are now do you think that's what the Venezuelans are going to do? What have you really accomplished? You have kidnapped the leader of Venezuela, and it's terrible, and it's a criminal act, and the world gets to look and see the fangs of the beast. But my question is this. So what now? What now? Now that the United States government has done another regime change, now that the United States government has kidnapped, not even let me add this. I digress. Not a regime change. They have kidnapped the president and his wife of Venezuela. Does that constitute a regime change? There is now the vice president. The vice president of Venezuela now moves up to the presidency. Dulce Rodriguez is now the president. So what now? Does the United States then go to, yes, Dulce Rodriguez is an evil dictator that must be, I mean, how far does that stop? Is that it next? On that. So now Dulce Rodriguez, let me see here. Hold on. So now is Dulce Rodriguez the acting president of Venezuela? Did they just do that now and say, okay, well, now we have to do a kidnapping effort and go kidnap the vice president? I mean, it was some kind of a limited, I had heard like 7 or 8 bombs. It sounds to me like it was they kind of figured out where he was and sent in special operations, and they kidnapped him. Okay. I don't think the kidnapping of the leader means that a country's over. I think that the military is still intact, that the people there are still ready to fight. So at some point, as we've seen this before, we see these high profile operations, but at some point, if you're going to call the shots in the country, you have to put boots on the ground at some point. What is the U.S. going to do? If Venezuela says we will not comply, then the only option is to go in with boots on the ground. But I don't think we have boots on the ground. So I don't think that Venezuela is just going to say, okay, you have kidnapped the president. That means that you're in charge of everything now. So we'll just comply to anything you say. I don't believe that. I don't think that's going to happen. We shall see, but I don't think that's going to happen. Okay, you can have our oil. I think that You've kidnapped the leader of a country. That's what you've done. That does not constitute regime change. People are calling it regime change. Is it regime change to kidnap a single person? If the regime change being a pejorative, a negative term to refer to the government of a particular country. They're an evil regime and we're going to change them. And how? Well, we'll start by kidnapping the president, as I said, with his wife. And then what? We will see. And then what? But let's not use the rhetoric of changing a government when a person has been kidnapped. A person. And if I'll put it to you like this, do you think, look at around the world where the U.S. has started went into Afghanistan or went into Vietnam, etc. If the people are ready to fight, if the army's still intact, which it is, what is your next move? Now that they've done that, are they going to like continue? Is it war? Is it going to be a continuous war against Venezuela? Is that the plan? It now just to continue, we will see, is they're going to just continue to a war against Venezuela, a bombing campaign against Venezuela? Even then, um, uh, at some point you have to put boots on the ground. Venezuela is not, everybody talks about bribing the military, but they've been trying that for you. That doesn't work in Venezuela because the way the Venezuelan government is set up, the Venezuelan military is set up. The Venezuelan military is led by Chavistas. The Venezuelan military is in fact very much dedicated to the Bolivarian revolution. So you can't go in like you did in, say, in some countries and bribe the military. It's not going to work. They are ideologically aligned with the Bolivarian revolution. So bribing the military ain't going to work. They went in and they performed a kidnapping operation where they did some bombings and they kidnapped the leader. But we will see what happens next. You know, people oftentimes see one thing. Let me put it to you like this. You know, there's an old Zen story that goes like this. And this is something that causes me to always take a longer term view, right? There's a Zen story that goes like this. There's a farmer and his son, and they're working their little piece of land. And one day they wake up and the horse is gone. Their only little horse that they worked with, and all the neighbors come over and say, "Oh, that's terrible. I don't know how you're going to make it. You've lost your horse. You can't work your land." And the farmer says, "Maybe." Next day, the horse returns. He's got 7 horses with him, wild horses. They run right into a fence. They close off the fence, and the neighbors say, "Wow, you know, that's great. You got all these 8 horses now. You can make a lot of money. You're going to be living well." The guy says, "Maybe." The next day, his son starts breaking the horses, falls off one of them, breaks both legs. His son's now can't help him, and the neighbors come over and say, "You know, that's a terrible thing. I don't know how you're going to make it with your son has both 2 broken legs. That's really bad. We really feel sorry for you. What a terrible thing." The guy says, "Maybe." Next day, the army comes by. "We're going to war, and we need all men 21 and under. How old is your son?" "Oh, he's 20. We're taking him." And he says, "He's right in there." He looks in. Kid's laying there. The guy's laying there with 2 broken legs. The military says, "Okay, on they go." Right. The neighbors come over. "Man, you sure are lucky. Your son has 2 broken legs, and he didn't have to go to war. You're a lucky man." And the guy says, "Maybe." Now, what is the point of that story? The point of that story is how you view incidents, how you view the world, how you view happenings. Do you view it as everything is a final happening? Okay, they've kidnapped Maduro, therefore, and this is an ending. That now they've kidnapped Maduro, so and then you come up with some kind of things of this means X X X X. So right now, the Trump administration, yay, they're high-fiving. We kidnapped the president of Venezuela. We've done this. We've won, right? And what would the old man of Zen say? "Yes, we've defeated. We've kidnapped. This is great." And the old man of Zen would look at him and say, "Maybe, maybe. Tell me about it in a week. Tell me about it in a month. Tell me about it in a year. Tell me about." I'll put it to you like this. Many Americans are still, oh my gosh, they toppled the Syrian government, and therefore they won in Syria. They absolutely won in Syria. And now there is a resistance in Syria. There is an armed resistance growing in Syria, as you probably know. A week and a half ago, a convoy was attacked. Some American soldiers were killed. And so, bottom line is, the United States government is facing a growing insurgency in a dangerous Syria. So my point is, they were celebrating, hooray, we overthrew the Syrian government and we installed ISIS. Hooray? Yeah, maybe. Talk about it a year later. Talk about it 2 years later. Are you embroiled in a disastrous Syrian um, resistance that runs us the hell out of there? That you didn't know what you were getting yourself into, that now maybe terrorist forces or excuse me, resistance forces are growing that can take military actions against U.S. in the region. You don't know what Syria has become. If it becomes a Badlands, then everybody out there could potentially attack U.S. interests. So my point is this: for those who are celebrating with Syria, hooray, hooray, they've defeated and they've won everything in Syria. Here's what I say: talk to me in 3 or 4 years and take a look at Syria and tell me how well that worked out. I have a feeling it ain't going to work out all that well. It's because people always stop. They stop when the horse runs away. The horse ran away. Oh, terror, this all screwed up. I tend to see a long-term vision. One of the reasons that Iran, that Russia, that China are such a difficult nut to crack is because they're all like thousands of years old, and they have a different view of history, and they don't see temporary victories. They don't see acts such as this as the end of the game. America is such a young country. America sees everything as the end of the game. American citizens, they watch it. When something happens, our mind stops right there. Okay, they kidnapped Venezuela, therefore it's all over. Therefore, the U.S. was just going to go and pump all the oil and control Venezuela, and the people of Venezuela will just walk around, and the army will melt away. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that's going to happen. We shall see. Now, let me say this. My position was Trump wasn't going to attack Venezuela. I said, I don't think he's going to war with Venezuela. I was going to attack Venezuela. To some extent, I still make the argument. What they did was a special operation. It was a criminal kidnapping operation. It wasn't a full war against Venezuela. It was an act of war. It was an act of illegality. It was an act of criminality. It wasn't a full war, because I don't think the United States is ready for a full war with Venezuela or anybody else with 16,000 troops. So now that they've got Venezuela and Trump's going to celebrate, yes, I've done this and look what I've done. We'll see how that works out, even in the up and coming weeks. Now, let me continue. The other thing I'd say is this. Let's talk a little bit about the domestic repercussions. So Trump has been in power now. Excuse me, I use that word loosely. Trump has been in office. I think we've got to see the difference between a president being in office and a president being in power, because lots of presidents are in office. Excuse me, but I don't think, I'm yawning because it's early in the morning. Lots of presidents are in office, but I don't think that any presidents are really in power. And I think one of and this is, I don't know any way to put it. One of the good things about this, and I'd say a good thing, and I use that word not in the sense that it is a pleasant thing that I'm happy about. I'm just saying one of the things that are resultant from this, and I say good things because people need to know, and the world needs to know what the United States is, if they didn't already know, is the domestic repercussions. And I tell you why. Because you had a lot of brainwashed MAGA people, just like I was a brainwashed Obama person. I'm not saying that to be negative about MAGA people. They were like we were as the Obama people. We wanted something different, and we thought we were getting something different. We wanted a peace guy, and we thought we were getting, he said he was a peace guy. He said all of the things that needed to be said, just like Trump when he was running. I just say Obama, Trump, same guy, same exact guy. It's like almost like Trump really hated Obama so much because he sees himself in the mirror. He looks and he's in the mirror and looks at Obama and he sees himself. And people don't like looking at themselves in the mirror. But Obama did all of the peace stuff, and we're going to extend a hand out to this country and that country, and all of these things. And when it came down to it, as soon as he got in office, he proved that everything was a lie within a year. I mean, everything. Biden, what's he do? He runs for office. Oh, we're going to have a $20 minimum wage, and we're going to fix Obamacare with the public option, and we're going to do this, that, and this. Everything that he knew that his constituents, I said they weren't really his constituents, but the people that thought they were the Democratic Party constituents, everything he knew they wanted to hear, he said it. Oh yes, just come on in and join me, and we'll get together, and we'll have a coalition, and we'll do all these good things. And once he got in office, he ignored all of them. Well, if you look at Biden, he made a list of things he wanted to do, and either he just purely ignored them, or he redefined what he was doing, and he did some neoliberal madness and called it what he said he was going to do: build back better, right? And what was the Trump that said? The big beautiful bill. Think about this: build back better, big beautiful bill. They always have something with a bunch of B's in it that is some scam that sounds good. That's all that's all you're going to get. This is the good thing about it, is that Americans get to understand that all they're going to get is build back better, big beautiful bills. They're going to get rhetoric. They're going to get lies and rhetoric. It doesn't matter who's running. If they're a Democrat or a Republican and you vote for them, you're getting build back better, big, beautiful bills every single time, which is nothing. Hollow lies and rhetoric. And now I think that one of the things that people, let me show you this. One of the things that that's starting to surface everywhere, and that is a Tulsi Gabbard tweet from 2019. Let me find it. And it is this. I think we should look at this. This is a Tulsi Gabbard tweet from 2019, which is making the rounds. Ready? Tulsi Gabbard. Oops. Maybe. How about here? I don't know why I'm not getting that. They won't let me. Let's go here. Share screen. I'm going to try this again. There we go. The United States needs to stay out of Venezuela. Let the Venezuelan people determine their future. We don't want other countries to choose our leaders, so we have to stop trying to choose theirs. 24 January 2019 from Washington, D.C., Tulsi Gabbard. So one of the things that Trump has done is put Tulsi Gabbard in a difficult position, because there are a lot of people who are now saying, Tulsi, you have to resign. You got to resign, Tulsi. You have to leave. You have to walk away. I think if Tulsi Gabbard resigned, she'd have a chance to run for president. But you got to understand something. It doesn't matter. She could run in 2028. But one thing America has to have learned from Trump, and that is, if someone runs as a Democrat or a Republican, you can't trust them. If they run as a Democrat or a Republican and you waste your time voting, you know what you're going to get? You're going to get Donald J. Bush-Obama-Biden-Trumpanyahu. That's what you're going to get. You're going to get John McCain. The American people need to realize the truth now. That's what they need to do. They need to realize the truth. And the truth is, when it came to Obama in 2008, let's go back as far back as George W. Bush. Do you remember what George W. Bush ran on? compassionate conservatism in 2000. That's what he said, compassionate conservatism. What did that mean? That mean bringing in Paul Wolfowitz and Dick Cheney and all these other people and getting involved in war after war and cranking money up to Halliburton and all these other. It meant lies and thievery. It meant stealing every dime you have, doing the same thing to Iraq that they're doing to you. Did you know that when it comes to Iraq, did you know right now, all the oil that Iraq sells, the money goes to um, New York banks? That when you buy Iraqi oil on the market, you have to pay the money goes to the U.S. The U.S. controls Iraqi oil money, right? So the reality is that George W. Bush's compassionate conservatism, it was Obama. Remember Obama? Yes, I'm coming in. There's going to be something different. There's going to be peace. I'm sticking out a hand of this and that, right? That was Obama. And then Trump comes in the first time. Yes, vote for me. I'm going to be something different. And Biden comes. Oh, and Biden says the age of democracy, of diplomacy is back. We're going to do diplomacy again. How? By starting World War III. And now Trump comes in and just, you know what? Let's not pretend like Donald Trump is something weird or strange, that Donald's an anomaly. Donald Trump is an evil, bad guy. Donald Trump is, in fact, the purest, clearest, cleanest example of the American government, of the American project, the American enterprise, what it has become. It is nothing but a war machine. That's all the U.S. is. You are on board and you are an annoyance to the war machine. You're those who are saying, look, we want roads and we want schools and we want maybe the prices of things to go down, and we want the government to be concerned with us, and we want peace. We don't want. I'll put it to you like this: if Trump were to say, "Good news, I've attacked Venezuela and we're going to steal their oil, and therefore the price of oil is going to be dropped," so guess what? You get cheaper oil. I don't think a lot of people's position is, well, great. If I'll put it to you like this: if I were to take a gun out and go rob somebody and steal their money, I'd have more money, wouldn't I? Hey, good news. I'm going to buy a new Corvette. Really? What are you going to buy the money with? Stolen money. I went out and robbed a bunch of people and stole their money. Would I be better? Could I brag? Look how rich I am. I went out and I got this gun here and I robbed a bunch of people and took their money, and now I'm better off. Hey, everybody in the chat, dinner's on me. Where'd you get the money? I robbed and killed a bunch of people and stole their money. Let's go enjoy the fruits of my crime. Right? So is that what Americans want? The fruits of criminal activity? Because at this time, we've got a country that has committed a genocide. And let me say this: you're getting the fruits of that. Let's see. Let me read this. This is the fruits of it. Let me find it. One of the Zionist guys the other day has openly called for the end of the First Amendment. I can't think of his name. Let me find it. I can't think of his name. You guys out there probably have been following that. But anyway, one of these Zionists, I think his name is Shlomo Kramer. And a lot of people are out there. Yeah, Shlomo Kramer. And apparently he's saying, the Americans are going to have to learn without the end with it, to live without the First Amendment. America's going to have to, the First Amendment has to go. Netanyahu apparently has said things like that. So you want to talk about the fruits of U.S. imperialism? You want to talk about the fruits of the U.S. war machine? That's the fruits of it. The fruits of it is, hey, people are going to say they don't want war. What do you think we ought to do? We'll make it illegal for them to say that they don't want war. That's the fruits of the U.S. empire. That's the fruits of U.S. foreign policy. The fruits of U.S. foreign policy is when you say, I don't like the idea of bombing and killing and slaughtering children, bombing people in tents, stealing the land of Lebanon, stealing the land of Somalia, stealing the land of Syria. I don't think that's a good idea. I disagree with that, and I'm an American citizen, and I have a right to say that because of the First Amendment. Oh, really? You do? Yeah. Well, we're just go. You just got to learn to live without the First Amendment because that's got to go. And here's the bottom line: if you don't have free speech when you want to criticize the government, if you don't have free speech when you need it, if unpopular speech is not protected, there is no free speech. You don't need free speech when you're not when you're saying things that the government's okay. You don't need it. That's not even free speech. That's just somebody saying, "Yay, the government's great." But when you say, "I disagree with our foreign policy," and they say, "Well, we got to end the First Amendment," that means you never had it in the first place. They only pretended that you had it until such time as you started saying things they didn't like, because the First Amendment is supposed to specifically uh, protect unpopular speech. So you never really had it. So now, let's see, January 20th will be 1 year that Donald Trump took office. Let's see, we've got trolls in here. Um, and let me add this. And I just like blocked another troll, right? But here's the thing to keep in mind something. A couple weeks ago, maybe a month or so ago, Benjamin Netanyahu was talking about the eighth front. In other words, you. He's at war with you. At war with you. And he's saying, look, I'm at war with your thoughts and your brain and your mind. You may be thinking or saying. Well, that was interesting. I think I'm back. I guess I'm back. I was gone for a second. Everything dropped out, and my internet's good. So who knows? Let's see. Everybody, let me know if everything's back. Okay, good. So when I started saying things about Netanyahu, I'm like, isn't that interesting? That suddenly I got blacked out when I said things about Netanyahu. But I'm like, hey, they're trying to stop our free speech. Freeze frame. He's gone, right? But at any rate, yeah. So the bottom line is Benjamin Netanyahu has veto power over the so-called Constitution. That lets you know this, something that I've said in the past. The ruling elite doesn't view the Constitution as rights that you have. The ruling elite views this as privileges that they allow you to have. That you should be happy that they deign to suffer and suffer the effrontery of your very existence. Oh gosh, we allow you peasants to exist? How dare you? And so now here we are 1 year in. Now, 1 year into the Trump administration, and um, he's revealed that the whole thing was a fraud. Basically, it's like this. Look, did I run for office? Yes. Did I say I was going to stop the neocons and warmongers? His exact words. We're going to run the warmongers and neocons out of office. Trump's exact words, right? Guess what? I don't think he accomplished that task. In fact, I don't even think he embarked upon that task. I think that the whole thing was a fraud. It was Bush's compassionate conservatism. It was Obama's hope and change. It was MAGA. It was Biden's big, bold, beautiful, big new build back better bullshit. It was the same thing that you get every 4 years. And so now what happens? So now people are like, you know what? Trump's going to lose in the midterms. What difference does it make if Trump loses? Trump never won in the first place. The people who are behind Trump, whether it's the Zionists, the billionaires, the tech bros, whoever it is, Trump never won. Trump is a effigy. Trump is a representative of something behind him. right? So what if Trump leaves? It's time. I think this is a time for people to stop that Trump crap, that Biden stuff. The Democrats are going to win. The Republicans are going to lose in the midterms. Then they'll, um, and then they will impeach Trump. So they're going to impeach Trump. Haven't you learned what that is? It's something to keep you busy. So what? They're going to impeach Trump to keep you busy. And then the pro-Trump people will say, those stupid Democrats, they're impeaching Trump. And then the Democrats or whoever hates Trump will say, good, they're impeaching Trump. Look, here's the thing. They're going to mark time. They'll impeach Trump for 6 months. And at the end, they'll vote and they'll have 65 votes. But 66 would be enough. And they ain't going to have 66. So they'll vote. Then, I don't know, 6 months will go by and then the Democrats will impeach Trump again. And those of us who are of a mind to believe that it's real will sit out and, yay, Trump's bad. He's got what he's coming to him. And Trump's going to be doing the same thing that he's doing. Eating the best of food, drinking the best of drinks, living living his best life as he gets impeached, and they'll walk through the motions and they'll do the dance. And at the end of the play, the curtain will go up. And when you ever go to a play? I never was much plays, but when my daughter was little, I'd take her to like the Sound of Music or whatever, right? And you know what I remember? At the end of the play, the curtain went up. And you know what? The guy everybody was holding hands. What do you know? But wait a minute, I was just watching this big play and they hated each other. Somebody was getting killed. It was the good person. Somebody was sick and died. All these things were happening in this play. All of these people, these actors. And at the end, the curtain went up and they were all sitting there holding hands. And they were all bowing and thanking everybody for coming out. See, we knew it was a play. We paid for the play. We knew, and hey, that's the Sound of Music, right? Well, okay. So now the Democrats are going to be like, yes, we've got now. And here's the interesting thing. The Democrats will say, yes, we've got to vote for us because we got to stand up against Trump. Do you think they'll condemn this? Do you think Bernie Sanders and AOC and Zoran Mamdani and all the other puppets, they're just Trumps? Mamdani is another Trump. That's all he is. He is Trump. See, they understand this. They look at the poor people on the right, conservatives who want something different, who've had enough of this, and they say, we'll give you something that looks like that. Then they look at these so-called lefties. We're tired of the Democrats. Oh, you want something different? Yeah, well, we'll paint up, we'll bring out Mamdani in here and put a scarecrow suit on him and paint him up. There you go. You got Mamdani. Oh, is he different? Sure, yeah. Yeah, he's all different. He's nothing like the rest of them, completely different. And then you're like, yay, we won in New York City. Mamdani is going to stand up against the machine. They are really good at giving you Trumps and Mamdanis. And until you wake up and realize that they're all Trump and Mamdani, and that if you vote for anybody in either one of these parties, and you think somehow you're going to get something different, you're wasting your time. Now, I would say this: find an insurgent. If you're going to vote, find an insurgent. That probably won't make any difference because they use the machines to count the votes. That's it. You know, the other thing, I got to say this, looking at this, if you really think they stole it from Trump in 2020 now, if you really think they stole it because they were afraid that Trump was going to get in and he was going to change everything. No, Trump wasn't going to get in and he wasn't going to change everything. They don't have to steal it. It's stolen before it starts. It's already stolen. But now the US government is like, okay, Trump is a lame duck. They use the term lame duck. And lame duck to us means we're supposed to believe that because the president or whoever it isn't running again, that they don't care what the people want. And so they're just going to do whatever now because they don't have to worry about running again. Bad news. They didn't care in the first place. Bad news. They're all lame ducks and they're always lame ducks. They don't care. They're going to do what their bosses and masters tell them to do and what they're paid to do. And it doesn't matter if it's their first term or their last term if they're told what to do because they know they're going to be taken care of. They know that they're going to get their golden parachute, that they're going to get paid, they're going to get their money. The more devious and diabolical things that they're involved in, the better off they'll be paid. Remember when people thought, oh, Howard Dean, the Howard Dean scream. Ah! Remember that? Oh, they took out Howard Dean. And what did Howard Dean do? He went to be what did Howard Dean do? He went to Wall Street. His whole family is a bunch of Wall Street bankers and Wall Street lobbyists, and he just joined them. Howard Dean was a scam. Trump's a scam. They're a scam. It's time to wake up, America. Let me say this about let's talk about MAGA a little bit. And now, I'm not going to try to tell you I know what MAGA is. I know what MAGA is going to do. I know how MAGA is going to react. I don't. I can just prognosticate. I can just tell you what I think. And that is that MAGA, in my opinion, give you my opinion on MAGA. MAGA was the Tea Party. You probably heard me say this before, that in 2008, on the right, a pushback against the bailouts arose, and it was called the Tea Party. And of course, they named themselves Tax Enough already because the tradition of conservatism in the U.S. in recent years has been an ideological opposition to taxes. In some ways, I can understand that, to be quite frank. In a lot of ways, I can understand that, particularly in light of the reality that, you don't have any control over the government anyway. It is, here's the bottom line. What we have is taxation without representation. That's really what we have. Americans don't want to admit that. But in a way, the Tea Party was right when they said taxed enough is already. Not that I think it's terrible to pay taxes if the tax are used for the what is it called, the general welfare clause of the Constitution. If the tax money is used for the general welfare of the people, fine, whatever. I mean, if they're building us roads and schools, if they're doing what China is doing, building high-speed rail and things, no, okay, fine, I'll pay taxes. But if the taxes are used nothing but for imperial purposes, for an empire to run around the world, stealing people's resources, then, excuse me, then I'm with the Tea Party. Tax enough already. I don't want to pay my taxes for this crap. But we all have to. I mean, they'll throw you in jail if you don't pay your taxes. So I got to pay, like you, I got to pay taxes. But I understand people who take the position that says, look what my tax money is being used for. And of course, it's time for Americans to make the argument, taxation without representation. If the George Bush runs on passionate conservatism, if Obama runs on hope and change, if they run on things that are nothing but sound bites and lies, and you're never going to get what you voted for, then isn't that in fact the definition of taxation without representation? They don't represent you. They represent. If right now this Shlomo, whatever his name is, can say we've got to get rid of the First Amendment, and you're paying for that crap. We now have this anti-Semitism czar, right? So and we know what that means. That's a lie. The anti-Semitism is nothing but a pro-Israel czar. His job is to thwart your right to criticize anything you want to criticize. His job is to stop protected speech. They've got an anti-Semitism czar. His job is to specifically thwart your constitutional right to First Amendment. Yes, Shlomo Pedo, somebody called him Shlomo Pedo, Shlomo Kramer. But his job, if you have any curiosity about what old Shlomo is there to do, it is to ensure that your First Amendment rights are thwarted, that you don't have them, that they're nothing but privileges, and that the privileges are officially revoked. Because now the U.S. is kind of, the money situation is getting tight. This $37 trillion, $40 trillion, whatever, money that a debt that they're, of course, never going to repay, that they're just going to print more, and you ain't getting none of it. And now that you're going to run your mouth and say, I don't like that because I'm suffering, their job is to shut your mouth. Hey, I don't like it. We're suffering. Their job is to say, oh, really? You think you're suffering? Yeah, shut up. You're no longer allowed to say that, or you go to jail. That while they go, oh, well, look what's going on in Europe. They're they're hurting people's right to free speech. And here they're doing away with the same. They're following the tracks of the Europeans. And so now this Tea Party that eventually Trump came along and very skillfully, Trump decided that it was going to be his organization. So he rebranded it. That's all it was. He rebranded it to MAGA, Make America Great Again. And he came up with a nice red hat. Think about that. They're really smart like that, aren't they? At branding and things like that. We're going to give you a red hat that says Make America Great Again. And we're going to call it MAGA. And we're going to give you a movement. And we're going to give you something to join, a group to be a part of, like the Crips or the Bloods, MAGA, the Democrats, the Republicans, whatever. We're going to give you that. And so here's your red hat, join our group and shut up. Because I'm going to do the same damn thing Obama did, but I'm just going to tell you I hate him. I'm going to do the same damn thing Biden did for the most part, with a few adjustments. I'm going to have different enemies. I said when Trump came in, the thing about Trump is this. He doesn't like to fight the big guys. He likes to fight the little guys. So he doesn't want to fight Russia, China. Well, that's not even Trump's not even part of that discussion, but he definitely wants to steal the oil from a Venezuela or some small other country. He wants to attack and rob and thieve, and of course in the Western Hemisphere. And I'll say this: so this is likely Rubio's plaything. This is likely Marco Rubio mostly behind this. And let me tell you, when and if, but I think when MAGA starts to revolt against Trump, Marco and the Democrats, let's say the Democrats win and they impeach Trump, Marco Rubio will be all over it. You think he won't testify? He'll pull a John Bolton. He'll quit. Oh, yes, Trump's a bad guy. We got to stop him from being a Putin bot or something. And he'll turn around and et tu, Brutus, right? If he ever gets the chance, he'd be happy to do that. And Trump didn't. My understanding is Trump didn't choose Rubio anyway. That Adelson chose Rubio. Adelson did the person, the Las Vegas person whose basically family fortune comes from the remnants of the Meyer Lansky, Bugsy Siegel Jewish mafia in what do you think? It's an accident that these mafias that basically Las Vegas was kind of founded by Jewish mafias, and that the Adelsons are coming out of Las Vegas with a whole bunch of money from the casinos. I think that's coincidence, right? Where do you think that money came from? That is the Meyer Lansky, Bugsy Siegel, the modern day iteration of that. Let's see, we got another troll. Every now and then I knock a troll out for fun. But yeah, and this is so if you want to know when I knock a troll out, here's the bottom line. When does Garland knock out a troll? If I happen to look over there at the chat and I see somebody that's just launching attacks, why would you go to a YouTube channel and watch a show if you don't like the host? You're Garland, you're a jerk. Okay, I know what you are. You're a paid bot. You're not going to go to a YouTube channel and watch it. It's just like me going to watch a movie. Hey, let me watch this. This movie sucks. I hate it. Terrible. And I sit there for 2 hours. Nobody's going to do that except the paid bot. So if I see the paid bots every now and then, I glance through there and out they go. And that's always fun. It's nice to toss a troll occasionally. I don't get a chance to do it a lot, but every now and then it's kind of fun. Anyway, so where were we? So I think we get to learn about MAGA now, because this is all speculation. I think MAGA was the Tea Party, rebranded and grabbed by Trump and said, follow me. And I think in defense of the MAGA people, I think that they really did believe in the America First stuff. And they really did think that Trump was going to do it. And while there are, in fact, brainwashed zombies in the MAGA movement, there are a lot of people who really believe in what they're saying. So in the same way that you can run into a bunch of Democrats and hear, and think you're listening to Rachel Maddow. Hey, how you doing? Putin, Putin, Putin. Or something. You've been around. I'm sure you've been around them, and you hear the rhetoric of, the deep bowels of the Democratic Party, the foolish and absurd rhetoric, right? And I guarantee you that I've already been on Twitter. The thing about it is, if you go on Twitter and you see some of these oh yes, Trump did a great job. Oh, Trump went in and stopped, grabbed Maduro, whatever. You got to understand what Twitter is. You got to understand now that look at Barry Weiss and CBS and ZBS. Look at I believe, what was it? The Israeli government reached, I forgot how many hundreds of millions they recently said that they were going to invest in their, public relations campaign, which, as you can see from Barry Weiss, part of the public campaign is to protect Israel, and part of the public relations campaign is to protect Trump, because he is their patron. He is the patron saint of Zionism right now. And of course, if you're a Zionist, you look at the United States and you say, I want more money so it can funnel more to us. So the U.S. is looking at it saying, if the Zionists are simple. If you're Israel, you're saying, United States, I want you to take all of Venezuela's money. American people ain't getting it anyway. We are. If you're Netanyahu, you're like, go, gadget Trump, get more money. Why? Because America, he's stealing the money. He's going to use your troops. He's going to use your aircraft carrier. He's going to use your Navy, your SEAL Team 6, your whatever it is, you poor schlumps. You're going to pay for it. And then once he steals the oil, we're going to get the money. Sorry, suckers, but that's the way it is. So now you have MAGA, who here, and I think, here's the thing about MAGA, I think, even though there's plenty of brainwashed zombies, just like the Democratic Party, they have to, they can't afford to lose 20%. And I think MAGA now is just falling off. I think they lose 25%, 25%. Or more, that just says, yeah, I can't do this anymore. But there's another part of this that is important, and that is, when Trump won, he didn't just win with MAGA votes. He had a coalition of a lot of people who don't normally vote for MAGA. And guess why a lot of them voted for Trump? Because they thought he was going to be for peace, because he said he was going to be for peace, because he absolutely lied. And let me tell you something. I don't care. I think he just might have doomed J.D. Vance too. I love that. MAGA, Miriam Adelson governs America. There we go. That's a good one. Oh, no, that's not the one. I lost it. There we go. If I can ever get to it. There we go. Mac Truck 22 says MAGA, Miriam Adelson governs America. Good one. But I think Trump has already lost. MAGA, quote, has already lost the coalition of people who were non-Republicans, non-traditional Republicans who supported Trump and voted for Trump. Well, that's gone. And now another part of MAGA, say the libertarian anti-war people, I think a lot of them are out of there. So you'll just be left with diehard people who anything Trump says is fine. But I don't think that's a big enough group to do much. So what, though? Realistically. So now Trump flops and the Democrats win. First of all, does anybody think the Democrats are going to condemn this? Does anybody think that the Democrats are going to be like, this is a terrible thing, we shouldn't have done this? No, they won't. They'll say, well, Trump should have done it a different way, but he still should have done it. Hooray, whatever, because they're not, they work for the same people. So the Democrats, I'll put it like this. When Trump comes in, they're going to impeach him. Not for that. You know what they'll impeach Trump for? Something to do with Ukraine. They'll impeach, just like they did. They impeached Trump for not sending weapons to Ukraine. So now they'll impeach him for like not supporting Ukraine or something like that enough. That's all. And this person says, Trump is the white Obama. Say one thing, do the opposite. Well, absolutely. That's all he is. Obama was for lefties to say, so-called people who thought they were lefties, for liberals, not even lefties, for liberals to say, hooray, we've got our liberal guy, and look at him, he's brown, so he must be a nice guy. And he said peacey, peacey, peace stuff. And he gave us hope and change. Trump is for the conservative. Oh, look at that. He's a conservative and strong man, and his leader is going to make a difference. No, he ain't. No, he ain't. And he couldn't if he wanted to, which he doesn't. And he's now exposed a year in. But here's the thing. What does he care? He doesn't care about a year in. He doesn't care about 3 years in or 5 years in. And at some point, he'll croak. I don't think Trump, based on his health issues, I don't think Trump finishes his I don't think Trump finishes his what do you call it? 4 years. I mean, you know, they're already making excuses for bruises on his hands and other health stuff, and he's talking about all the aspirins that he takes. I think Trump has some serious health problems, and we don't know what they are. And I think he doesn't finish his 4 years. Does it matter? JD Vance is going to come in, and there are those who thought JD Vance. Remember, JD Vance is a peace man. JD Vance will be worse. No, he won't. No, he won't be worse. He won't be better. He won't be worse. You know what JD Vance will be? JD Vance will be the same thing Trump is. He will be a person who comes up with some kind of a persona, who comes up with some hillbilly elegy, who comes up with Trump is, hey, I'm the peace man, or I'm the guy I'm the French fry cook at McDonald's. I'm the trash truck driving guy, right? That was him. That was his scam. That was his scheme. That was his Hollywood character. JD Vance will come in with a Hollywood character. He won't be worse than Trump. He won't be better than Trump. He will be a different Hollywood character. His is a hillbilly elegy or something like that. He'll be just a different character. The question is, will Tulsi Gabbard resign? It's possible, but I doubt it, and I'll tell you why. You know, one of the things that I think Gabbard feels, and maybe people around, some people will feel as well, we'd be better off with her there at least. At least there'll be a voice to try, there'll be, if she's in the midst, there'll be some voice of opposition. There'll be somebody in the Trump's inner circle that's saying, don't do it. Well, that's one way to look at it. Another way to look at it is this. It doesn't matter, because her voice is not going to be heard. So I think, personally, what would I like to see? I'd like to see her resign, but I don't expect that she will. I really don't expect that she will. But would I like to see it? Would I feel good about it if people resign? But here's the thing about it. Look at Kash Patel. Look, Kash Patel should have been an indication of what you were going to get with Trump, to be quite frank. And that was nothing but lies. Kash Patel gave us the same thing. Oh, I know what time it is. I know what's going on with Russiagate. I'm going to do all this and that. They ain't that. They're going to string us out. They're going to send, go interrogate John Bolton or something like that. And they're going to keep us busy thinking they're going after Russiagate. Now, first of all they're doing is, that's like, we're going to go after the people who went after Trump. What the hell how does that help me? It doesn't really. And they're not really going to do it. It's like the John Durham investment. They're never really going to do it. The whole thing is a fraud. And people need to know it's a fraud. Now it's time for people to stop talking about Trump. Really, to be frank, I'm getting towards the end, but I'll say this. It's now officially time to stop talking about Trump. Trump doesn't exist. Trump doesn't matter. Once you start to realize that Trump, as I put in the name of this, Donald J. Bush-Obama-Biden-Trumpanyahu, Bush-Obama-Biden-Trumpanyahu, once you realize that that's who you get, then why talk about Trump? He's an irrelevant factor. Why watch what Trump says? That ain't his decision. Trump's not deciding what happens. Trump's not. What is the point of even discussing Donald Trump? You know, the people that are going to come in, Trump sucks, Trump's a jerk, Trump's a moron. You're only demonstrating that you don't understand what's going on here, that somehow we could just get rid of Trump. That Trump is making these decisions. He's a bad guy. He's in charge of the government. He ain't. He ain't. There's one of the first trolls there that I threw out was somebody who was in the chat saying, "There, Garland, you are making excuses for Trump again." You don't get it. You think it's Trump. You're still discussing Trump as though he is actually a factor here. I have done that. I have discussed Trump as though he's a factor here. In some ways, could he be a factor? Possibly. In some ways, his idiosyncrasies could be a factor. Fair enough. But when it comes down to it, the US government has been eyeing Venezuela oil now for generations because Venezuela's oil is there. And they can't let Venezuela sell their oil and use the money to take care of Venezuelan people. And so now this is the consummation of a policy that started before we heard anything about Trump running for office. They kidnapped. Listen, this is not the first time the United States government has kidnapped the president of Venezuela. Let's see. Watch this. U.S. I'm going to search this. Kidnap Hugo Chavez. And I bet something will pop up. I just searched U.S. kidnap Hugo Chavez. Now, oh, okay, there we go. The internet's moving real slow and popping in and out. It ain't easy, but if you search, it's hard to find because everything now is about, maybe I'll use my phone. Maybe I'll use my phone to look that up. But if you can't, because the internet's moving slow, and I guess it's because, let's see, you can look that up. I believe it was 2003, and the United States kidnapped Hugo Chavez. They held him for a while. The U.S., let's see, I'm going to try to, so bear with me here so I can make the point. And the point is, this ain't even the first time. If I can get to it, man, it is hard. 2002. Here's one. Venezuela marks the 10th anniversary of April 20, 2002 coup attempt against Chavez. Venezuela 2002, the coup. Listen to this. Venezuela 2002. Century, a failed U.S.-backed coup in Venezuela set Latin America onto a new course, right? Let's see. Well, the bottom line is there's a lot of stuff going on here. This is a long argument, a long article, but the bottom line was the United States kidnapped Hugo Chavez, and the people of Venezuela came to the streets by the millions, and the U.S. had to return them, right? So here's my point. Donald Trump just did exactly what George W. Bush did. He just followed exactly in George W. Bush's footsteps. Think about that. He did exactly the same that George W. Bush did. George W. Bush kidnapped Hugo Chavez. Donald Trump kidnapped President Maduro. Same thing, no difference. So to look at Trump and get mad at Trump, to look at Trump and say, Trump did this, Trump is different, Trump is somehow more evil, Trump is somehow more of a neocon. That tells you Trump doesn't exist, doesn't it? That tells you there is no real Trump. There's no Trump, sorry. You just got George W. Bush, you got Biden, you got Obama. You've got a continuity of operations, a coup plan, continuity of operations. How do you keep things going? Think about that. See, what everybody will talk about this, but what few people will say is they did the exact same thing before in the exact same country. 2002, they kidnapped him. How about this? The United States kidnapped the president of Haiti, Jean-Bertrand Aristide. Same exact thing. They kidnapped him, they put him on a plane, and they took him to some African republic. He didn't know who they are, and they put like baby Doc DeValue, this brutal fascist leader, in charge of Haiti. They kidnapped the president, I'm going in and out, right? So you look at this and you say to yourself, yeah, Trump's pretty normal for a president. This is what I get. And in the midterms, there'll be a decision made as to this is what I'm going to get again. If I think that the Democrats won, wow, I'm in and out here. I think that what's going on is I just think there's so many people online right now on YouTube. There's so many people probably on StreamYard. That StreamYard's going in and out. There's so many people live talking about this, and it's overloading the system. But whatever the case may be, I think that's it for me. I think that it is difficult for any of us to make predictions as to what's going to happen next. But we know that this is Donald Trump. This is what you get. That's why I named it Donald J. Bush-Obama-Biden-Trumpanyahu. That's what we got. And if you're looking to think you're going to change something in 2028, people have to begin in America to have some kind of a revolutionary mindset. I think people in America have to start to say to themselves, you know what? It's over. The so-called experiment. What it's been said that empires last 250 years, and we're right at 250 years. It's over. The game is over. Any hope, any dream that you had that somehow your vote counts, somehow you're going to get to choose. They're going to give you Biden and Trump to choose from. And you're going to get Trump/Biden or Biden/Trump. And they're going to do what Bush did and what Obama did and what Trump did and then what Biden did and then what Trump did again. And if J.D. Vance, who's nothing but a puppet for Palantir and Thiel and these guys, if you get a Palantir puppet in, then you just got to, it's a puppet show. What difference does it make if it's Big Bird or the Count or Ernie or Bert or who? What difference does it make which puppet it is? They're all puppets. They just look a little bit different. Who's your favorite puppet? Pick your puppet. That's what they ought to call it every 4 years. Pick your puppet. And I'm glad. I know a lot of people who said, I'm voting for Trump. And I have a lot of friends who voted for Trump. And ultimately, I didn't, because inside of me, I knew, as bad as Biden was and as bad as Kamala Harris was, I knew Trump was going to win. But I just felt like no matter what, you always get a neocon. I don't want my mark on that. I don't want my name on this thing. So I want to ultimately, when it all goes bad, I want to be able to say, well, at least I didn't vote for him. That's all I can do. Not that it means anything. Well, thanks a lot, everybody. I think that's it for me on a Saturday morning. Certainly appreciate everybody taking time out of their busy schedule to hang out with me, all 1,012 people. As always, thanks everybody who's my Patreon people for being Patreon members, and for people who use PayPal or buy me a coffee, things like that, to support the channel. I appreciate it. There's Cash App, all that kind of stuff there. And of course, for those of you who use snail mail, if you want to send anything via snail mail, I get all kinds of stuff get sent to me. There's a P.O. box, because I know there's a lot of people that prefer snail mail. So you can still contact me, send a letter, a card, whatever you want, doesn't matter. Thank you very much. And as always, like, subscribe, and the most important thing you can do is share this on all your social media platforms. I'm out.